Hi friends! So here's the deal. I don't know about you, but in the past I struggled a lot with the product and jewelry photography for my social media and shop. And I don't mean the technical aspect of the photography, but rather what is on these photos. How do I photograph my products to make them stand out? How do I catch attention? How to tell a story and just show my jewelry in a creative and awesome way? It takes some time and trial and error to figure out the best setup for your products. That's why today I wanted to share with you my favorite product photo ideas and tips to make your life a bit easier. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Many of these props are simple everyday items that you might already have at home. You can also find similar ones at craft and thrift stores. For my photos, I prefer items made of wood and metal and with natural earthy colors most of the time. If your product fits in a bright and lively palette, don't be afraid to add vibrant colors that pop out. Let's start with craft accessories and displays. Many products can be displayed alongside these items, even if they're not directly connected with each other. They might fit the theme of your product, an inspiration, or a story that you wish to tell. And even if not, they still can be used as background items to add interesting textures and shapes to your photo. Try using accessories like wooden hands, embroidery hoops, wooden models for drawing, paint brushes and pencils. Decorative scissors look great on flat lay photos. Another idea is stationery supplies like stamps or linen pouches and strings, notebooks, papers, envelopes or tiny bottles. Even paper craft flowers can look very nice. Tools relevant to your craft. I'm a jewelry maker, so the tools I can use in the photo can include a little hammer, beautiful saw frame, and some other smaller and interesting looking tools. If you create handmade products, you certainly have tools that you use to make it. Pick the ones that fit the color scheme or have interesting shape and include them in the photo. For textures, I love using fresh and dried flowers, crystals, little wooden accessories or chunky salt. They're great to sprinkle around and add some details to your photo. For jewelry, let's not forget about the easiest prop, the displays. Whether that's a cone for a ring, a little tile to display a pendant, or a trinket dish, you can find these items in different shapes and themes. You can also make them yourself out of clay. They can serve as a decorative prop by themselves and beautifully display your jewelry. Next are random everyday and fun items from your house, like metal cans, jars, mugs and cups, candles in different shapes and sizes, pretty fabrics, blankets and pillows, or beautiful plants which you can use as a background, as an element in the frame, or even as a display itself. These items are free as they are most likely already in your house. But if you want something different, you can easily find them very cheap in thrift stores. Finally, using your own hand. Sometimes the best prop is no prop. You can simply hold the product in your hand and focus on the light and the background. I love using this one in my own photos, mostly because I can use my hand for scale to show the size of the item. It's also super easy because I can use any background I want without setting anything up. For this photo, it's best to use the camera or lens that offers a blurry background for this bokeh effect. You want the focus to be on your item with the blurry background. You can add fairy lights to make it even more interesting. I love this effect the most, I think, because it's always so interesting and bright. Right, so these are my props and photos ideas. Now let's get into tips. Tip number 1. When shooting your product with other props, make sure that these additional items do not take the attention away from the product itself. I've learned it from Peter McKinnon in his flat lay video, which I will link down below. The props should complement your product, make it stand out, create an interesting narrative around it, but not dominate it. Tip number 2, avoid clutter. You don't have to use all of your props in one photo. Again, it's all about creating a narrative and interesting surroundings for your product that makes it stand out. So choose props that fit the best and tell the story you want to tell. Tip number 3, textures and details. Photo is flat, that's the nature of it, but there are ways in which you can make it look more interesting. For example, you can use small elements like little crystals, little flowers, or grains of salt, which you can sprinkle around to add extra details. Avoid using too much so it doesn't overwhelm the scene. Tip number 4, composition is your best friend. Composition can make or break your photo. Let me show you an easy example. You can have the simplest photo in the world with just a couple of items, but you could still make that photo look better using just the composition and balance alone, like here. Can you see what difference the placement of these items made? It's subtle, but makes it look more interesting. Tip number 5. Close-ups give you a sweet deal of 2 shots for the price of 1. When you're taking a photo in one setup, make sure that it looks great both as a whole and as a close-up. This way you can reuse the same photo and it will still make sense because you made sure that both frames look great, full frame and a close-up. Which brings me to tip number 7 in a way. Before you shoot, think about different formats and make sure you get some shots in both vertical and horizontal format so you can create content for various platforms like Instagram, for example. And Instagram works best with vertical photos, same with Pinterest. For your website or thumbnails, for example, you might need horizontal photos. And finally, number 7, backgrounds and backdrops. Interesting backgrounds in your photos will tremendously improve the effect. If you don't have access to interesting surfaces like wooden or concrete floors or tables, you can try using inexpensive papers with textures. I mentioned this before and I still find it really great. Yes, they are more flat, they are fake, but if you find a good quality, they're still better than nothing. My favorite is a dark wooden one. The main goal is to avoid boring, flat and lifeless surfaces. And remember that you can always simply hold the item and shoot against an interesting background. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe for more. Check out my other video about taking product photos at home. It will be linked below. And yeah, huge thank you to my patrons as always. I will see you in the next one. Bye!